Hello and welcome to this edition of The Verified with me, Mustafa Kedab. Today I have Mr. Madi Jobarteh, and this will be a different edition because this one we will do a bit of a review of 2025 and also look into 2026, which is where we already are, because it's an election year and the historic task of journalists and civil society organizations as we move towards the presidential election. Mr. Jobarteh, welcome to The Verified.
Thank you. Good to be here once again.
Beautiful. So 2025 was declared by the Welfare Small Center for Rights and Justice as the year of transparency and accountability, if I could recall.
Yes.
And how did that, how should I say, how is it like? After the end of the year, your assessment so far?
Yes, we are compiling a report, a statement to give our overview of the year. But what it would show is that it was a challenging year. The fact that the state has not delivered as far as transparency and accountability are concerned. That is to say, in many instances, the state has not provided information to Gambians at the right time and in full and and truthfully. So there have been many instances of disinformation from the state or misleading remarks, let's say by the president, ministers, and so on. But at the same time, also, we've got many instances of adherence to the rule of law. The performance of institutions, the delivery of services, violations of rights without any accountability. So these are all instances that shows that transparency and accountability have been in short supply in 2025. Not to mention, of course, which falls within the broader framework of adherence to the rule of law. For example, we've submitted numerous access to information requests to various public institutions, without response according to the law. That law.
That's the experience for us too.
And that law, apart from the request, first and foremost, is based on the principle of proactive disclosure.
Yeah.
So that again, we can see in many instances, whether it's about government contracts, government decisions, and reports and so on, that where there should have been disclosure by the government, various government agencies, that it did not happen. So that when we look at the transparency and accountability in 2025, for me it highlights that a major weakness in government, and which is a governance issue, because at the end of the day, of all the things we do, they boil down to transparency and accountability. Without that, then what we're gonna see is violations of rights, corruption, disregard of the law itself, underperformance, and the consequence of all of that would be poverty, deprivation, high cost of living, and so on. Because this transparency and accountability speak to the issue of efficiency and effectiveness. Yes, and so if a government is transparent and accountable, then it would indicate efficiency, effectiveness, and efficiency, which is about delivery, performance and delivery. So that's our assessment, but we are working on it.
In terms of your own involvement, you were involved in a number of also activities during the course of the year. You were involved in protests, you were involved in issuing statements, you were involved in a number of activities.
Yeah.
Would you say that in terms of state response, it's being a little bit more positive comparatively or a little bit more negative comparatively?
As a little bit more negatively.
Responsiveness of the state to
Responsiveness,
demands of the citizens.
yes. So that what highlight of the protest, for example, would be the Ghana protest, following the public story about Janneh's assets. I mean, of course, the state, in terms of the National Assembly, we saw a response in the creation of the parliamentary committee, which is positive, and we're looking forward to their report. But in terms of the executive, the response has not been positive. I mean, I know the president said, well, they will wait for the parliamentary committee to do. But we had issued a statement to say, even that is the case, there are certain interim measures that could have been taken, certain decisions could have been taken, as executive. So, but then, of course, other protests have followed,
The data protest.
Yeah, the data protection with Pura. But even before that, there were protests by Ghana in terms of demanding information or accountability from various public institutions when they submitted
for various audits.
Petitions. Yeah, so, and then, the responses they've received in most cases are not responding to the demand. So, so that, of course, we have the data protection. The response, came later because it was after several months, after arresting people, subjecting them to, a trial. The government itself came back to say the data price floor should be removed. Yes, and so
that means effectively the young people were right.
Were right. I mean, after subjecting them to all sorts of brutality and injustice. So and
I think that case is still ongoing.
The case is still ongoing.
It is against Umar Kamara, Ali Uba, and
and
a couple of people.
44 in all. 23 are in court. Another 20 or 21 are under police charge. Police reporting on police bail. So government response has been limited because apart from the protest, at our end, as I said, there is the access to information reports we submitted. But also, which probably many citizens may not know, we have submitted a lot of policy briefs and position papers and letters of concern to various institutions, whether it's environment or law enforcement or education.
And you don't publish this?
Which are not published, to highlight a particular situation and demanding that the relevant institutions, respond to that. So they don't even respond to our letters. And we've submitted this across the board. I mean, from parliament to ministries, departments, agencies, on a whole range of things. So it appears we have a government that just don't want to be held to account. Because at the minimum, acknowledge that we have received this letter, which does not happen. And of course, I mean, to respond to the issues that are there. I mean, because that is what is governance. I mean, that citizens, especially citizen groups like civil society organizations, they are actors in our governance system. And that is the relationship, to engage, to raise issues and concerns, and they respond. So if you fail to do so, I mean, therefore it means the government is not ready to engage or to engage critically, with relevant actors. But yeah, so these are all stuff we have done. I mean, we have done in 2025, and so that all of that considered, I think for me, what it just highlights is the lack or the limited commitment in the government for transparency and accountability, and which we'll see. We'll have to see what happens. But this is the situation.
There are many things that have happened in 2025. So, for example, the Auditor General was removed. The Janneh asset expose by the Republic and leading up to Gala, protest. There was also an investigation into land allocations, various places that were also published. There were a number of things, including audits that were published, with very damning findings. What would you say in terms of the gravity of the situation is the key highlight of the year? Of course, there is also a local government commission, which was also like a huge.
So when you look at it in the course of the central theme has been corruption and abuse of power. So the Auditor General's reports have highlighted this multiple times. The parliament itself, I mean, remember the Russian oil, inquiry.
Yes, certainly.
Of course, reports by investigative journalists during the course of the period. Even presidential, commissions or police investigations into stuff. EFSTH, Edward Francis Small Teaching Hospital, IEC, so all of these are pending. That didn't happen, but also, the removal of the Auditor General, so there are many instances of, corruption and abuse of power, for which there was need for accountability, but apparently that hasn't happened, and to the point that some things have to go to another level. Let's say the Auditor General has now taken the matter to court. A lot of protests have been done, because of these cases. The year, therefore, I think what all of these things indicate is, for me, the lack of commitment of the government to ensure that there is accountability.
Let's look at the issue of the Janneh asset, because there are a lot of things that could be learned from that. One is we have seen that Gala was born, and Gala probably may not be the first, but arguably it's probably the most effective to have come out of this country in terms of pushing for reforms and other things. And that even after they came and started the protest, government started doing something about Janneh asset, which their initial position was nothing happened, nothing was wrong. What do you think is the lesson we could have learned from that? I mean, in terms of, having a government that's responsive, like what lesson could we learn from that episode?
The lesson that could be learned, I'm trying to say how to put this, is to say that, really, since independence to date, we have, persistently underplayed, undervalued transparency and accountability. And as I said, for me, when you talk about effectiveness, say government effectiveness, efficiency, delivery, the ingredients, the foundations of it are transparency and accountability, because that is what will ensure there will be effectiveness, and efficiency in law enforcement, in service delivery, and so on. And so the report about Janneh assets and then the emergence of Gala to today should make us realize that the missing link in the governance and development of this country since independence has been the absence or the inadequate presence of transparency and accountability, which accounts for, the dictatorship, and even before that, the poverty, the, weak, poor service delivery, and, and all of the problems that we've had. And so if there's any lesson really for us to learn, is to highlight this issue of transparency and accountability, so that when you look at the Minister of Justice, and the whole process of Janneh Commission and many others as well. If the ministry had upheld the standards of transparency at that time, since 2020, to deliver to Gambians, or to report to Gambians how Janneh assets were being, managed, disposed of, and so on.
You could say there wouldn't even have been a story.
There wouldn't have been a story. So that the Ministry of Justice, and then we know later there were bodies like the Ministerial Committee, if they had been transparent, we would not even, the story would not have come. Maybe Gala would not have come, we wouldn't have been in this situation. And that would have addressed so many other things, victims, and the whole transitional justice process would have been further enhanced because of that transparency. Now, if you add accountability to that, also it meant that, for example, the proceeds from Janneh's assets at that time was said to be 1.2 billion or something.
1.3, yeah.
1.3 billion. And today, it appears nobody knows where that 1.3 billion disappeared.
Yeah, nobody knows.
And we are sitting here struggling with the government lamenting about lack of resources for victims, for the transitional justice process. 1.3 billion would have addressed all the reparations and, a lot of the reforms that needed to be done, and so on. So the lesson, therefore, is very obvious that, if you want to have the kind of Gambia we envisage, if you want to, achieve the never again agenda idea, if you want to ensure peace and stability, a country that is thriving on good governance standards, it means we should have prioritized transparency and accountability. And that failure is why we are suffering today, the disregard of the standards of transparency and accountability. And so for me, this is the lesson, which is a very obvious lesson, because it is not something that government can claim that they are not aware of, they don't know or so.
But isn't it's something strange also, it's very strange happened, because the president, when he was addressing the nation regarding this subject matter in the aftermath of the protest, he said that he didn't have access to the sales reports by the commission, like the reports of the sales by the commission.
Yeah, so which still speaks to the issue of transparency and accountability in terms of public officials performing their functions according to law and ethics professional standards. So if you are a president, you institute a presidential commission of inquiry, such as the Janneh Commission. It raises the question, therefore, what do you follow as a president? All right, what do you prioritize? But also, what accountability relationship existed between you and your Minister of Justice, for example. But also, what are the issues that are brought before cabinet? So that I think that is a very, very serious statement for the president to claim, because it highlights serious lapses of leadership, of governance, and of course, it's all about transparency and accountability. So if a president is not aware of something like this, what about the rest of the citizens? Yeah. All right. But also, it means a lot of abuse, a lot of corruption, conflict of interest, and so on would have taken place, simply because that lack of transparency means lack of accountability.
Yeah.
So I think that is a terrible statement by the president, and I hope he had really considered that line to realize the meaning of that, for him as a leader, but also for a system that is supposed to operate in a certain manner, based on certain standards and values. But Mr. Fa, when you look at all of this, this is the fundamental issue that, which I said earlier, affecting our society since independence to date. Yes, because that lack of transparency and accountability, as I said, impacts on performance. Because where there is no accountability, there is no transparency, then an individual may not perform as he should perform. according to your terms of reference, according to the law. That means that person or institution also will not be effective, because it means you are not doing things as you should do them, all right, and even doing them in a very efficient manner, all right, so that you maximize resources in a way that you maximize impact, and therefore produce that quality of life, quality of development is continued. So in one sense, one just needs to look around the Gambia, the setup of our communities, services, everything, to realize the only thing missing is not knowledge, it's not skills, it's not resources, yes, it's not financial or material resources, it's not that. The only thing keeping Gambia as it is essentially the lack of transparency and accountability. And I hope
that's probably why we are talking about Jammeh as it's 8 years later.
8 years, we're still talking about it, and you wonder. Sometimes when I think about the parliamentary committee, I get scared. I mean, in terms of what kind of report will they produce? Yes, and I hope the report will be a report that would be genuine, and that will be based on facts, and that would above all capture the reality, so that hopefully we will take that report and make good use of it. That is the government, and of course the rest of the citizens.
They are writing their report. It should be finalized by March.
Yeah. So I heard. I mean,
there is another aspect of this that probably is a positive one. If you agree, that would be, we have seen also that when the journalist report came out, Gala came out, it shows that when citizens also are resolute in demanding something, it does happen. Well, at least something happened.
Yeah.
And it did seem that for a few days that nothing would have happened had those chain of events, if those chain of events did not occur or didn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, that's why it is said that democracy only thrives when citizens engage, citizens participate. Democracy is it's a participatory game. And so again, that is a lesson that we may have to learn, not something unprecedented, strange, but to say that if you want democracy that serves the people, that is democracy in which there is good governance as adherence to the rule of law, protection of rights, and of course transparency and accountability, citizens must engage. So citizens here are not just individuals, but the citizenry in terms of the media, in terms of civil society, I mean, even in terms of the private sector, that these are all actors within the governance environment, so that if they engage and not just sit down and fold their arms, if they engage by speaking up, if they engage by investigating and reporting, if they engage by protesting, they engage by going to court, and so on, we can trigger a response from the state to fulfill its responsibilities. And I think the Republic story and the emergence of Ghana validates that fact, that if we engage, we can produce results. Yeah. So and over the course of 2025, we've had citizens engaging. Yes, Gala may be the climax. Yes, but there have been engagements. I mean, I think in many instances, we've seen many media houses also bringing, creating platforms for pertinent discussions or discussions on pertinent issues, bringing stakeholders. We've seen other protests take place, apart from the Gala protest. We've seen instances of individuals going to court. For example,
the finance ministry,
yes,
late tabling of the 2024
budget.
2025 it should be
2025 budget, yes. So and so we've seen that for the 2026 budget it came on time. So is it that because some people went to court, that's why the finance minister ensured that this time he's acting according to the law. So all of these things have happened. A lot of citizens, media, and civil society have utilized access to information act, to make requests, because if we don't also do that, we wouldn't have known if the government would be lawful or lawless.
Or not complying.
Yeah, and so all of these are things that citizens have done in 2025, and it has produced responses from government.
Well, shouldn't we connect this? I mean, shouldn't we look at this also in connection to the space in terms of the latitude the government allows for these actions, positive actions, to happen? We have seen that when Gala happened, there was instances of state oppression. State react in a very violent way. We've seen also the Pira data protest. We've seen even after the protest, when the court session was happening, some tear gases were thrown at people. There was a particular incident of somebody spraying a tear gas canister into the face of a protester. Somebody who was not even a protester, he was just standing in front of the courthouse at the Westfield. And so would you say therefore that there's also a shrinking space? I mean, had there been any indication of a shrinking space in 2025? And sort of, because we are moving into an election, it will be even more sensitive.
So the space is shrinking, because I'm trying to recall the situation in 2019 with the 3 years incident. So going all the way to 2025 and still seeing instances, because in 2019 what had happened, and even before 2019, 2018 Faraba incident in Sanyang as well,
Gunjur.
Gunjur. So the instance of police brutality, Faraba one went to another level. We had casualties or fatalities down there.
Also has casualty.
Usman Dabo. Yes. Who was arrested, was it in a protest, but
later on, subsequently, there were protests.
So what we've seen, because this point needs to very much clarified. Yes, before 2016, Gambians would not request for permit to protest, because you request for permit, you'll be arrested.
You will get arrested.
So we have that instance in 2012, case of Babkar Sise and Sidikan, Abubakar Sidikan. And so protests that took place 2016, Solo Sandem protests, we saw what happened. So the fact that from 2017 to date, we can make a request, all right, and then the request is granted, marks a difference. But then when you put this in terms of democracy, you realize that the qualitative difference is still limited. So that even where citizens are not required to make a request for protest, let's say the Pura protest, they were clamped down by the police. But also where protests are granted, you would see how the conditions of the protest still do not meet democratic standards, because the conditions are usually tight. The protest is confined to a short distance, a very limited time, and many instances even confined to the bush, uninhabited places like Sting Corner or Bone Road and stuff like that. Not to mention the fact that there are many instances where protests have been denied for absolutely no reason. So when you look at it in terms of democracy and the freedom of freedom of assembly, the way protests are, granted, still fall short of, those standards, democratic standards. Until today, no protest is allowed, say, in the middle of Banjul. The farthest point would be at, Arch 22. I'm sorry about that, the Memorial Arch, or a Never Again Memorial Arch. In fact, I would say at the, National Assembly, premises. So, yes, because we are out of dictatorship. So, I don't think we should compare protest today and protest,
and democracy.
Yeah, because that is completely a dictatorship. It's autocratic.
Yeah,
so
they are two
different. So, but when it comes to democracy, you realize that the protests that are the granted fall short of democratic standards, because this right is guaranteed by the Constitution. The Constitution provides that there can be restrictions or limitations, but then the limitations that the IGP now comes to give basically tantamount to denying or undermining, weakening protests to the point that making them futile, and that is not the intention of the Constitution and the norms of democracy when it comes to public assemblies. So, in that instance, I find that the civic space in terms of public assemblies remains restricted, and and I hope 2026 will be different, which of course would not be the case simply because it is it's an election year. So yeah, but it means we just have to keep pushing to make sure the civic space is really open and widened and expanded to enjoy our rights. Yeah,
we still have some positive notes. That's if you can look at them from that lens. We have anti-corruption commission, and the commissioners are now effectively appointed by the government, waiting for a parliamentary endorsement. We have access to information commission. We have a reparation commission. Would you say these three institutions could probably give us a different 2026? Because hopefully these institutions will be fully operational in 2020. Well, let's say even access to information commission is already operational. The anti-corruption commission will be operational hopefully in 2025, 2026.
Well, yeah. So in one sense, in principle or generally speaking, one would welcome an anti-corruption commission, access to information commission, the reparations commission. Yes, and we will have to see, therefore, in practice, what they will deliver. So that the reparations commission, I hope the government would fund it adequately, and I see no excuse why the government should not fund it adequately. After first wasting $1.3 billion from Janneh proceeds, but apart from the fact that it was the state that perpetrated those acts, so the state must take it as a priority to make sure the reparations committee or commission is well funded to ensure that reparations are provided to all victims, adequate reparations are provided to all victims, including those who need medical attention, are taken to the best medical centers across the world, because it is the state that did this. The state has invested money on individuals who were not harmed by the state. You've seen ministers, former vice presidents evacuated to foreign countries for medical attention, and the state did not make them sick. The state did not harm them, torture them. You've seen the president's mom taken to Senegal, in which millions of dollars were spent on her. The state did not harm her. Now, where the state was the one that shot, tortured individuals and harmed them, then the state has a moral duty to make sure they spend as much money on them as it has spent money on those that it did not have responsibility for. All right. So that is that. Now, in terms of the Access to Information Act, Commission, it's long overdue. One, it means the state has not prioritized this commission. What they have been given in the 2026 budget, if that is to go by, that commission is still not out of the woods yet, because the amount of money provided to them is very minimal. Basically, it's to pay salaries and operational costs, pay bills, and so on. But in terms of program work, I would say not enough money is being given to them. So, and of course, so it is about within the state, what is the commitment, to make sure all public institutions have the necessary information officers, put in the necessary infrastructure, processes, and so on, to make sure they respond to requests and do proactive disclosure. All right. So, how prepared are public institutions in terms of archiving, documentation, and and all of that? So in principle, of course, access to information law and the commission are critical, but we have to see whether they'll make a difference, in 2026. Now, the the anti-corruption commission, the parliament has approved. Initially we wanted to raise issues regarding the persons appointed, as commissioners. But on second thought, we said, well, we'll give benefit of doubt, and since the state has gone this far, not fulfilling a lot of transparency standards in terms of the process.
Yeah, because we do not even know how many people applied and who these people are.
Yeah. So
and the selection, how it's done, and out of how many people, and out of who and who.
Yeah. So there are a lot of issues with this commission, the setting up of the commission, but it is set up now. We will look at these three commissioners, whether they will perform accordingly.
Yeah.
All right. But having said that, it is also to say we find the Anti-Corruption Act to be very weak as well, because the commission does not have prosecutorial powers, directly. It has to, consult with the Attorney General, but also important.
And the AG could torpedo anything.
Exactly. But also the law, says anti-corruption will start with cases from 2023 to now. So anything before 2023 is out of their mandate. But also a very important clause that was removed, in the parliament, the unexplained wealth,
and that makes anti-corruption investigation super easy.
Yeah,
it makes it easy.
Yeah, unexplained wealth is critical. It's at the heart of anti-corruption, particularly for the public sector. In the absence of that, then you are very much limited in terms of how you fight corruption. So given all of that, we want to still say, well, the commissioners would show determination and commitment, and the AG will also
approved by Parliament.
They've been approved. I think appointed already.
Yeah,
I'm not sure they've been sworn in, but
not sworn in, but they've been appointed and approved by Parliament.
Right. Yeah, nominated and approved by Parliament.
Yeah.
So now the president has to appoint them and then sworn in. So I don't think there has been a sworn in yet.
Yeah, I'm not aware.
Swearing in, yeah. So so we will have to see.
Yeah.
Will these commissioners demonstrate utmost commitment to anti-corruption? All right. The rule of law and enforce the law. Will the IAG not be an obstacle? The recommendations that the commission will bring to the AG to, pursue cases, prosecutions, and so on. Will the AG, carry that forward, or will they be an obstacle?
One could say maybe, what could they do differently from the National Audit Office and the police already? I mean,
Yeah.
because I mean we have seen audits done by National Audit Office and the pushbacks that are coming from the executive.
Yeah.
But also pushbacks that are coming from the executive regarding police investigations.
Yeah. Yeah. So many times they will say files are at Aegis chambers, and the files either never come out.
Yeah.
Or, yeah. So there are a lot of, investigations, on audit about corruption that are claimed to be conducted by the police, and the file is at Aegis chambers and nothing has happened. So will the Anti-Corruption Commission also submit a file to the Aegis chambers and then nothing happens? Or, worst case scenario, the Aegis says, no, forget about this matter. But the thing is, the onus now is on the government to practice what they preach. So they claim to be anti-corruption. Barrow's last address, New Year's Eve, he said, let's fight corruption. Before that, in the his address about the Janneh assets, he said, even if you are his family, you will not be spared.
No one will be spared.
Yes, and and he said this multiple times. The Minister of Information had said this government is the most transparent government since independence. All right.
Yeah.
So now they
have
have
heard
to,
it, but that's a very convenient statement because you have nothing to measure it against.
Yeah. Or maybe we even have something to measure it against. Just that it just shows that the government is very low on transparency. Because you have access to information at least over the past 1.5 years. And requests were submitted. You never respond.
Yeah, on principle, you could say we have a lot of laws that we didn't have before.
Yeah.
But that does not in practice mean that those laws are in fact very functional. Like you and I have engaged the access to information law for a long time. And everything we have had points to the contrary.
Yeah, and I say there's a lesson too we can learn, or history we can look at in terms of Janneh. And I used to say this, under his regime, he set up some of the most, important good governance, transparency, and accountability institutions and laws of this country.
Yeah.
But then his government was the most opaque.
Yeah.
I mean,
it
corrupt.
comes to fight these very institutions.
And fighting the same institutions. Yeah. I mean, through neglecting them, interference, and underfunding them, and so on. So, so while we can welcome all of these things, we just need to be cautious to say, look, there is nothing unprecedented. It is nothing new, and not just in the Gambia, but many parts of the world.
Because it also remains factual that there are a lot of factors that influences government to create new institutions and new accountability institutions. So, for example, some are coming from donor recommendations.
Exactly.
Some are coming from your development funding partners, maybe EU, US, and other institutions. Some are requirements for budget support. So so they don't necessarily set them up based on our history. Because the citizens need it.
Yeah, so a lot of them, World Bank, IMF recommendations, because they also speak about good governance, as a cornerstone of economic development. But also because you are a member of, let's say, the United Nations African Union, so international law also imposes obligations to set up certain institutions. If you look at children, for example, the CRC and Gambia's, appearance before the Committee for the Rights of the Child at the UN level, there's always been a recommendation for the creation of a mechanism, an institution for children, like a ministry for children. And eventually we saw one, established in 2019. So a Human Rights Commission is also a requirement, under the African Commission, Charter on Human and People's Rights, recommendation coming out of the African Commission, as well as the, Committee for, Civil and Political Rights, the Human Rights Council at the United Nations. So all of these things come, from some place, but some can be homegrown, because if I'm not mistaken, I think the coalition's MOU and the President Manifesto had, put certain deliverables, targets when they take over.
Yeah.
And one of the institutions they actually mention is an information commission, the setting up of an information commission. Yeah. So either way, things will be triggered from somewhere, which is fine. But then when you also create it, respect it.
Commitment.
Be committed to it, and that seems to be our problem.
We do not have much time right now, but just one, two simple issues and quickly. We are going to an election year. What should be the task for journalists and civil societies in this year? I mean, because the demand for transparency and accountability is huge. In the government, not just for the president, but also for opposition parties who are hoping to replace the president.
Yeah, so for me, as I with the journalist, is transparency. I think for far too long, probably the first time such a report came out, I think was the Republic or Malagan at the time, about the assets declaration of the presidential candidate.
Yes.
Yeah,
Malagan.
Okay. So I think that is fundamental. But because that is after nomination, declared. But even before that, like right now, I think it is important that our media go into our political actors as political leaders and political parties, looking at decision making and decision making processes, looking at issues of financial, issues of the party, internal governance of the parties, and the background of the political candidates, who is who, their track record, over the period, because I think we should learn lessons really that anyone who seeks to seek the mandate of the people to manage the resources and affairs of Gambians, to be responsible for the protection of the rights of Gambians, and to fulfill those rights in terms of goods and services and so on, should be a person of impeccable character. And Gambians need to know, therefore, who is there. And especially now that we are seeing multiple actors, and the media needs to help the citizens to interrogate the motives, the ideas, the character of these individuals, so that we do not make this platform a free for all, and that people sometimes can utilize just to advance their personal interest or some other agenda, and that is not that of the people. But at the same time, in terms of the civil society, and which I have raised with our civil society colleagues, they should move beyond just election observation. If you look at it right now, all of our civil society organizations are silent, are quiet. Political parties are having campaigns. Political leaders are making statements. Who is checking, fact-checking, all right, which is a shared responsibility between the media and civil society. But who is fact-checking the statements they are making to ensure those statements are not just fact, but they are also not incendiary, they are not tribal, they are not incitement and so on. All right. But also our civil society needs to determine what should be the agenda for 2026. Really, it's not should we just sit down as usual, be silent until election 2 weeks before we start to mobilize for election observation, and we observe elections, produce a report? Or are we going to say, look, the state of this country is such that 2026, these are the issues that the political parties, political actors should pursue. This should be the agenda. And to also go back to the people to say, look, as citizens, in your best interest, these are the issues you need to confront the political actors with, to make sure that 2026, this agenda, it is not just any ordinary election or any other election. We've had elections over the period since independence. All right. Politicians come, political parties come, make campaign promises and so on, and then they assume office and nothing happens. All right. And the same system continues. So for me, this should be the position of the civil society, not just to ensure that we participate to ensure free and fair elections, that there's adherence to the rule of law, there is monitoring of political parties and so on. but also electoral stakeholders like the IEC and the police and GRTS, as a state institution, whether they are given, fair and just and equal platform to all actors and so on. I think our civil society needs to look at that, but also, as I said, to determine what agenda should it be in 2026. So for Edward Francis Small Center, we have launched what we call Election Watch. And so from now on, we'll be very busy because we'll be looking at political parties, political leaders, in terms of everything. We'll be looking at other electoral stakeholders, the state particularly, and here I'm talking about the police, we're talking about GRTS, we're talking about State House, and so on, the Parliament, and all other relevant agencies connected with the election. But also, we are going to engage in setting the agenda. What should be the agenda, and which we will issue, out to say whichever party or candidate stands for election or wins the election. We think the Gambia at this point, this is what we need, to focus on as for that government, because we just can't sit here and allow politicians, political parties, the incumbent, the opposition to manipulate people, which has been the practice, basically, divide the people, take the people's mandate, and then, assume public office and give themselves all benefits and so on, and the people continue with the poverty. I mean, look at 2017, 2021. The people we put in the executive, the people we voted in the parliament, the people we put in local councils. At the end of the day, what benefits have they given themselves? Increasing salaries, allowances, giving themselves also material benefits.
Across the board, across politics.
Political it doesn't matter which party, they are all the same. They enjoy these benefits. I mean, so I think we have to confront that, because as they do that, people are crying every day, high cost of living. I mean, electricity problem, water problem. I mean, and so on. So
I mean, just final point, because it's almost time. We have only 1 minute. The issue of Barrow's third term. Do you think the civil society should have a position on this, or no?
Yeah. I think civil society should have a position on it, and we have also submitted this to the civil society community that Barrow should not seek a third term. As a principle that no Gambian should serve for more than 2 terms, which is a matter that we had agreed, not just in 2016, but since 1994. One of the first things Janneh had said is that nobody should be president for more than 10 years. And he ended up doing double that time.
But they also put it in the draft constitution.
It was in the draft constitution.
Which is removed.
It was rejected, removed. So we saw that in the draft also in 2020, and then they butchered it, removed it, and brought these Barrow papers in 2024. But again,
it was also rejected.
Rejected. But again, you go to the Barrow's Manifesto 2016, the MOU 2016. This thing, self-perpetuation is the core issue. At the end of the day, our governance challenges one constituted on that self-perpetuation rule. Because if a person stays there for so long, the pitfalls are too many. All right. So we have taken therefore a principled position as EF Small Center to say nobody, regardless, should serve for more than 10 years. And this has been expressed adequately by Barrow himself before he reneged on everything. It is expressed by everyone. We all agreed the 1997 Constitution is inadequate, and I think it is immoral, unethical for anyone to now refer back to that 1997 Constitution to create a justification for a third term for anyone. But yes, I think civil society should take that principled stand, and which is one of the issues we are bringing to the people to say, reject third term by not voting for any person for third term, and for us that is part of the agenda.
That would be actively campaigning against Barrow.
Yes, we have to campaign against him on the basis of the third term. I mean, whether he's performed well or not performed well, that is up to citizens to deal with as their rights and their opinions and so on. But here we are speaking to an issue that is legal, in the sense that we have identified self-perpetuation as a malaise of this society some 30 years ago. And it was constitutionalized in the first draft in 1996. So for me, that makes it a legal issue which was expunged not by the people but by a few individuals for their selfish interest. So for me, it is a legitimate legal constitutional issue that we had agreed. All right. And then we fast forward to 2017, we had seen again in the draft, that came in 2020, that it was constitutionalized, entrenched, that 2 terms should what should happen. Again, it was removed not by the people, but by a few people. So for me, this term limit is already a legal issue. It is based on law. And above all, it is the aspiration of Gambians, and Gambians as the sovereign owners of this country. Therefore, it makes it legal because the Gambia is governed by the sovereign will of Gambians, and it was the sovereign will of Gambians, all right, in many, many ways expressed, in their support for term limits since 1994.
Even in the opinion polls are saying.
Opinion polls and so on.
Majority of people want to say
so for me, the only reason it is still not written in the law is not because Gambians prevented it.
It's because politicians.
Yeah, it is because a very few selfish people have stood against the will of the people. And the will of the people is the supreme law of this country. Because the Constitution said it. Section 1, subsection 2, that the sovereignty of the Gambia resides in the people of the Gambia, and all organs of the state derive their authority from the people, and they perform their functions on behalf of and for the welfare of the people. Therefore, the supreme law of this country is not the Constitution, it's the will of the people.
Yeah.
Because we are the sovereign owners of this country. We create the Constitution, and we can change it. And the constitutions that have come out of the people, the 1996 draft came through from the people. Because there was an NCCE that went round and got the opinion of the Gambians that no to third term. All right. In 2018, when the CRC also went round in the 2020 draft, it was the will of the people that that should be. Yeah. So for me, that is the will of Gambia.
I mean, every opinion that was short from Gambian people from 1996 to date, I mean, has clearly stated that people are against.
Yeah, a third
more
term.
than 2 terms.
More than 2 terms. So for me, all civil society, all Gambians.
But then the fine line would be, how would this be articulated? I mean, would it, because there's a fine line where it could be seen to be partition in nature without necessarily being, I mean, political without necessarily being partition. Partition.
So, Mustafa, this is another confusion in our civil society and the wider society. Partisan.
Yeah.
You will see some civil society organizations even write in that constitution, we are a non-partisan organization, non-profit, non-partisan. No, civil society can be partisan.
Yeah.
Yes, you can be, because civil society is independent but not neutral. And on a matter like this, civil society has to take a part. Yes, and if that position appears to be against the incumbent, so be it. If it appears to be in for the incumbent, so be it.
Yeah.
If it appears to be against the opposition or for the opposition, so be it.
So it's
a matter of principle.
Issue.
Yeah,
it's a position on the issue.
On the issue.
And not on the person.
And not on the president. Yeah. It may happen that today the president is Adama Barrow, which is fine. Yeah. But the principle is, the issue is, this country has decided that no person should serve for more than 10 years. The only reason it is still not in the law is not because citizens don't want it. Citizens want it. It is because of few selfish people who prevent it.
So how would it be articulated? Just final question. I kept you more than your time. So how would it be articulated? Like, how do you go about it? Like, do you just issue a statement?
It has to be issuing a statement. We will not go to campaign on a platform, sort of. But we will be issuing a lot of statements, a lot of messages to electorates in different forms.
So sort of sensitizing
Sensitization,
the people
yes.
that you cannot give him a hard time.
Yeah, so that in our agenda for 2026, the issues are there. For example, we are saying as EF Small Center that we need a transition period of 2 years to undertake constitutional, legal, and institutional reforms. Within 2 years, we should have a new constitution. So 2026 to 2027, December, we should have a new constitution. We should have legal reforms, which we are going to identify, institutional reforms, which we are going to identify. We should have implementation of Janneh Commission, TRRC, and all audit reports that they need to be enforced. Within these 2 years. And so transparency, accountability, rule of law issues, we are going to, that is, our agenda is based on that within a time frame. We don't need 5 years for a new constitution. We need a constitution, by December 2027. All right. If the new government, 2028, if the new government takes over in January 2027. All right. So, and in that agenda is to also say, vote against third term. Yeah. So whoever is seeking a third term, vote against it. And in this case, it's Barrow seeking a third term. So don't vote for Barrow because you are going to vote for a third term. So Barrow has the liberty to step down and they put off a new candidate. So we are not saying don't vote for NPP. No, we are not saying, we're just saying don't vote for this presidential candidate.
Yeah.
Who is Adama Barrow, because he will serve three terms. So go let NPP or Mr. Barrow step down and they bring up another candidate. Yeah. And you are free to vote. We are not going to say don't vote for this candidate or not. But we are just saying don't vote for any candidate who is seeking third term. So that's how we're going to do it.
All right. Thank you so much for stopping by, and it's been a very fruitful conversation, and we appreciate this. So viewers, that's all we have for this edition, and do join us again for another edition, particularly on Saturdays, which is a standard edition. Have a good day.